There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission.
All right, Hunter Man, what do you think, buddy?
We're here. We're doing it.
We are finally here. For those at home, we're running on backup mics. So if you can't quite hear us, maybe bump that volume up a little bit. And of course, we're going to try to talk to the back of the room tonight. So we'll get it done. Yeah. I promise.
Even if we got to start yelling, we'll get it done one way or the other.
I don't know if I've ever heard you yell, though.
Yeah,
so
you know.
We'll figure it out.
Avoid going down that path.
We will figure it out. All right, so episode 95. Tiger wraps.
Yeah, Tamin Tiger wraps.
All right,
nice
cool.
little name there. So we haven't done this particular show in a while, and typically the decorative wraps, the cross wraps, you know, you guys usually dig those kind of episodes. So
sure.
yeah, we're going to show you kind of, you know, obviously what you need to get started doing a tiger wrap. You're going to have some tips and tricks. Got a couple new products that we're going to kind of integrate into the show. And just kind of show you start to finish how to do a tiger wrap.
Yeah, and I think this is a great time because of those new products. Whether it be the G2 power wrapper, we got a little thread runner guy, we got some tension rod accessory. That's all going to tie itself in nicely here in the Tiger Wrap Show. So we got giveaways tonight, of course. I know you guys come to see the demos, but we know you stay for the giveaways. So Hunter's got a credit card out tonight. We're going to do a thread pack. So we're going to give away a thread pack tonight. We're also going to do a rolling thread carriage. That's the 4-spool. So we got that right there. That's a big hit for anybody that's got the track system. And of course, we're going to throw in some spools of thread there. And then a grand prize tonight is going to be an MHX spinning or casting rod kit and a spool kit, 18 spool kit. So as always, we're going to randomly pick those throughout the night, and then live at mudhole.com is the email address. All you really got to do is participate, do a little like and share. That's going to get you entered to all these giveaways throughout the thing. You want to go over a few of the new items before we dive into this deal?
So we've got one on the track here, and hopefully we can get a good view of it. I'm going to move a couple things out of the way, but I think we can probably get a little zoom action on that guy.
You want to pull it out first, and then we'll...
Yeah, you want to... it's kind of catching here. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Let's do that even better. All right. So this guy right here is... If you guys have a 4-spool or 2-spool rolling thread carriage for your RBS unit, this CRB product, the rolling thread runner, is a great addition. If you're using your carriage on the back side of the RBS track, you can use this thread runner on the front side, or the side that's closer to you. So essentially what it is, we've got our 3 wheels on the bottom side of the thread runner, which is going to allow you to use it in the track. And all we have on top is 2 magnets where you can put, razor blades or little small parts and pieces that are obviously magnetic. And then we've got our line guide right here, or our thread guide, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So again, if you're using the carriage on the back side of your tracks, you can use this thread runner on the track, or the side of the track that's closer to you. And essentially, as you wrap that thread, whether you're doing a thread wrap or a decorative wrap, this line guide, or this thread runner, I should say, will actually work in conjunction with the carriage and kind of follow that path for you. Yep. So it just gives you a better usability of the thread being closer to you, as opposed to just coming out of the back side of the track.
Yeah.
So.
And it also helps me out a lot, because in a lot of these shows, I've had to learn how to do a lot of stuff backwards, because I like the thread carriage to be away from me, have the thread come under, and then roll over the top. Because I always wrap going away from me, which I've had to do with the thread carriage here so you guys could see it, but now we're going to have this little guy.
And our other new product is this attachment piece on the back of the rolling carriage here. So this is our tension rod attachment. So if you guys have a 2-spool version of this thread carriage, it should already have a tension rod. If you have this 4-spool, fortunately we did not incorporate the tension rod into the 4-spool, but it is an option now. So you can buy this little plastic piece that attaches to the back, and then there are 3 holes that you can have for tension rods. So whether you want 1 tension rod right in the middle, or you can have up to 3, you know, more than likely you're just going to be using 1 at a time, but maybe there's a certain case to where you know you want to use 2 tension rods at a time. This will allow you to do that. So adapts right onto the back of the 4-spool carriage and gives you the option to use a tension rod. So those are the 2 new products. And these are also products that we actually manufacture in-house with our 3D printers, which is a new concept, new series that we've kind of developed here at Mudhole. We're trying to introduce new products that are quick and easy to manufacture in-house that we can bring to market quickly. So, you know, we lean on the folks at home that give us feedback with our products, and we hope to, you know, make them better. So by all means, you know, keep giving us that feedback, the ideas, and we will make them come to life. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Sweet. All right. Well, thank you for that. 30,000 followers in the Facebook group, the Rod Builders Workshop. So we're almost there. Super, super close. We're about to get to 30,000. So, you know, tell your mom and them, get them over to the Mudhole Live Rod Builders Workshop there on Facebook. There's a ton of really cool people in there from all over the world to kind of share the art of rod building. So it's good. Also, it is Tuesday the 21st, I think, right?
So,
We got a President's Sale that ends tonight. That is, does it end? It ends at midnight
right?
Eastern.
Eastern.
Okay, so midnight Eastern. I mean, who's really up that late anyway? But midnight Eastern, President's Sale. There's a lot of cool stuff in there. So run over to that. Not now. Do it after the show. So, all right, Hunter Man, what's Tiger Wrap?
So a Tiger Wrap is, let's go, you've got a couple done for us up here.
Yeah.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
I'm gonna knock that off, but
Sure.
just to get a quick zoom on this middle wrap that you did here. Let me go to the back, there we go, that works better. So really cool colors that you kind of use for this wrap in the middle. It's like a groovy like sea or like a wave pattern.
I think that's the first time I've ever heard you say groovy, but yeah.
Why not?
absolutely.
You know, expand your
Nailed it.
your
Nailed it.
vocabulary a little bit. So anyway, Tiger Wrap is essentially an effect that you get from a decorative wrap. You know, the process is very easy. It does require a couple steps to get there, but as you can see, hopefully in that lighting, you can see that tiger effect kind of come through a little bit. But essentially, it is, you know, a couple layers of thread. You know, for instance, I think most of the time you do around three threads for your base wrap.
Yep.
You'll kind of burnish those, apply a coat of epoxy. You'll go in with another 3 threads on top.
Yeah.
You're actually going to pull 2 of those off,
Yep.
sacrifice them, and then you'll put more, burnish it, and then put more epoxy on top.
For sure.
Now, with all that said, this is the end result that you get.
Yes.
And what's great about Tiger Wraps is you can use any color combinations that you can imagine. Obviously, some are going to show up better than others, so keep that in mind.
Yep.
We'll get into that a little bit later on. You can incorporate some metallic threads, you know, some ColorFast threads, and really make this thing, you know, when you take this out in the sun, you really get that full effect.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of a Tiger Wrap in a nutshell. It's, again, you know, just like with cross wraps, you can make them very easy or very intricate.
Yep.
You know, start to finish, you could probably knock these out and, you know, take away your finish time, the drying time of your finish. You can knock one of these out in probably a couple hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, yeah, that is a Tiger Wrap. So,
Sounds good. All right, so there's a lot of questions coming in on colors and some other things. Can you do it with a 2-spool hand wrapper and all that? You can. So I'm going to touch on that real quick, and then I'm going to show you kind of the map of a Tiger Wrap. But just because that we've got a 4-spool carriage here and you don't have one at home, that doesn't mean that you cannot do a Tiger Wrap. So If you've ever done some thread work that requires multiple threads, or if you're doing, because you have done some cross wraps and things like that, where if you want a wide band, you actually pull 3 threads, and you use 3 threads. So you can actually pull off 3 different colors and go real old school, if you can dig out a phone book or an encyclopedia at the house, and run those threads through a book, and you can wrap at them like that. The book will help compress it and keep the 3 threads together. If you have only a hand wrapper with 2 spools on it, get you a bobbin. I don't know, did we lose the bobbin under here? Maybe. All right, so you can put a 3rd spool into a bobbin, and if you've got a wooden workbench like this, if you've got a 2-spool carriage that is in front of you, wrapping away from you, you can take and put a 3rd spool on a bobbin, and you can anchor that bobbin to your workbench with, like, I take a nail and nail it in, and then it'll pinch that bobbin underneath, like the head of the nail, the flat head of the nail. Or you could take 2, and it will kind of catch the 2 heads of the nails like that, will catch that bobbin and hold it. So now you're working with 3 threads, and it's the 2 threads are coming off the hand wrapper, and you have the 3rd coming up like that. It's doable. So please don't, be shy or think like, oh, this is only for the people that have a 4-spool wrapper and a power wrapper and all that stuff, because it's not. There is also a number of different ways that you can go about picking thread colors. I know there's a couple comments in here that's like, oh, you should have done that color, you should have done that color. Yeah, there's a lot of colors that we could have, would have, should have done. Go at it in terms of, are you trying to do a theme? We actually have here, I believe we're coming up on Mardi Gras, right? So we got out some Mardi Gras colors. We did the green and the purple and the gold. So here I've got the initial base wrap down. So we're going to come back in and we'll put a second layer there. That's laid down and burnished. So the one over here, yeah, we probably could have made more of a contrasting color, but to be honest with you, it looks pretty cool.
Groovy.
It looks groovy. That's exactly right. All right, so really quick, let's go over to the whiteboard, and I'm going to write down some chicken scratch. See if anybody's coming through there while I do this.
Go.
All right. We're going to do this really quickly. So what we're doing, this is a rod blank here. All right? We are going to wrap like this direction. Okay? You're going to wrap this direction all the way down. And we have, when you think of the rod blank, looking down the rod blank, you're going to think of it like this: 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. All right? So this is the rod blank you're wrapping. 3 threads all together. So it's like 1, 2, 3 all together like that. You go your full length of your thread wrap. All right? At 12 o'clock, you're going to burnish. So you're going to burnish across the top of this. Take your burnishing tool and rub that thread and burnish it. Okay? At 3 o'clock, so you rotate the rod blank, rotate it. 3 o'clock, you're just going to do the opposite. Okay? So you're going to burnish everything back this way. 6, yep, you guessed it. Even Hunter could get that one.
Yep.
Go in this direction. 9 o'clock, coming back this way. All right? On the second pass, you're going to start down here. Okay? You're going to wrap back this way. Okay? I always treat my 12, 3, 6, and 9, I always treat it as the direction I'm wrapping. So I wrap from left to right, so my 12 o'clock is going to burnish left to right. Here, we're wrapping back this way. So my 12, wow, there we go. My 12 o'clock is going to be back this way. 3 is going to be back this way. 6, All right? So that is tiger wrap in a nutshell. Now, after you do this second layer, we apply finish here. Over these threads, add finish, let it cure out. And trust me when I say this needs to be cured out. Like, this is not a, oh, well, it's not sagging or it's 6 hours and I can pull it off. No, 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 no. If it's tacky, you're going to run into a problem, and I'm going to show you why. Because everybody loves when we show what to do and what not to do. So if it is not cured hard, you're going to have a problem. So finish, let it cure, run this one, and then we're going to take 2 threads out. Okay? 2 threads out, and you literally just take 2 of them and pull out, right? It's going to spin, unwind, and you're going to be left with 1 thread. All right? Now, most of the time, I like to leave the darkest of the 3 that's not metallic. Some people run no metallic in their tiger wrap. I like a metallic in my tiger wrap, but I don't leave the metallic as a top. I'm not saying that as a law. That's not a law. Do whatever you want to do, but I always choose the darkest color to leave behind that's not metallic. All right? Cool.
Lots of questions on what thread to use.
Oh, I'm sure. I am sure. Now, I use D thread a lot on the show because D thread is obviously thicker thread. It's going to show up a little bit better. We've got cameras, we've got lights, and trust me, this middle one here might not seem all that wild at home on camera, but it's pretty damn sharp in person. So it's hard to translate it. Now, one of the things when we say what not to do, these 2 wraps were identical first layers, okay? This one does not have a second layer on it because I turned the tension way, way up on my thread carriage and I didn't let this cure all the way out. If you can see all that like white crusty stuff all over it, what it did is it dug into the finish. And when it does that, and you pull the 2 sacrificial threads out, now you're going to be left with a big mess. Okay? It just looks like a bunch of crusty finish that it's because the thread cut into it. So that is, a lot of time and work that's ruined because you didn't let the finish cure all the way out. And that finish was, to touch, you were like, yeah, it's pretty good. Not too bad. You could have pulled it off the dryer and put it in the corner, but it might not have been ready to do a tiger wrap. So then, of course, now this one is the one that's good, right? Because we let it cure out, we put a second layer on, pulled the 2 threads, and then we're good to go. Cool? All right.
I think we need to give something away.
We need to give some away. I'm going to look here and see if there's anything crazy that I'm missing.
Yeah.
But Hunter, why don't you get the giveaway fired up there?
Yeah, of course. So just to recap on supplies that you guys are going to need to do a tiger wrap, a thread carriage is not necessary but extremely helpful. And then of course you're going to need an assortment of thread. More than likely a couple metallic colors mixed in is super helpful. So with that said, let's give away a 18 spool thread pack that has ColorFast and metallic thrown in. I'll get you started.
Let it rip. And remember, if Mudhole or Sean Chaney wins, we add in a gift card in there.
Bob Struss out of Facebook.
Nice, Bob.
Yeah, congrats, Bob.
That'll work. Very, very cool. All right, so let me, Hunter, you want to play little
switch?
musical chairs here?
Yeah.
So I'm going to pull this smaller one out here, and I'm going to work on this larger diameter rod one. We're going to lay one down. you gonna be able to see this, cool man? We'll go right here.
Yeah.
Sweet. Cool. All right. Now the great thing about the RBS G2, all right, it has an index chuck head. So I can see when we're talking about 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, I can see it on the chuck head, okay? If you do not have that and you're just doing this by hand, don't sweat it. What you're going to do is you're going to put a piece of tape down, and you're going to take a pin that I don't have. I'll use this. Oh. All right, so you're going to put a piece of tape here. And I'm just drawing an arrow that you guys can see at home, all right? So I got an arrow that means my first wrap is going that direction, and this is 12 o'clock, okay? Now you can, if you want, you know, put another piece of tape at 3, 6, and 9, whatever. I'm gonna eyeball it here for the show, and once you start to burnish it, you can really get a sense for how the threads are moving and what's at 12 and what's at 3 and all that stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this, I'm going to lay down this Mardi Gras type vibe again, show you how to start it. Now, when you're using the four-spool thread carriage, again, this is just me, I like to do the metallic on one side and my two non-metallics on the other side. That's just me. I don't think that there's any crazy, you know, science behind that. It just makes it comfortable for me to work on it. It helps me keep the metallic and the non-metallic threads from twisting, because the metallic has some twist in it just naturally. So I like to try to avoid any extra twist. So you can see I'm coming off the carriage to the eye guides here. And then I'm going to come to this little thread runner. Okay. Now again, I'm using all size D thread here. The reason that I'm using all size D is, helps you guys see a little bit better at home. It doesn't want to jump on top of itself as easy as running all D. Now, what I will caution you is, again, it's not a rule. You can use an A, a B, and a D, and a C, and a whatever. It doesn't really matter. But just keep in mind, if you've got thicker thread, it's going to overtake thinner thread, especially metallic. If you have an A metallic and you have size D nylon or ColorFast, you're going to need to wrap these threads tight to one another. And the two threads are going to want to jump on top of that metallic as you come around. So if you keep all sizes the same, it just makes it a little easier on the person wrapping. It's not a hard, fast rule, but it just helps. Sometimes we try to make this easier instead of harder than it needs to be. So, all right. A couple ways that you can start this. You can start it by wrapping just like you would normally wrap. Go around and lock the threads. And overlap them. Snug these up here.
And several questions about tension. Is there, and tension's obviously very hard to describe, but anything you can put into words there to describe how much tension you're applying to those threads?
I would add no more than a regular guide wrap. And if there was a percentage of how tight your guide wrap is, I would come back like maybe 20% of guide wrap tension. The idea with the Tiger Wrap, what makes it happen is the ability to manipulate that thread and make it give the pattern that you want. If you lock that thread down so tight, you're not going to be able to burnish it. So it's not going to give a wavy pattern. And I'll show you here what it looks like when you lay a pass down and you burnish it. You can actually see the wave of the thread as it goes around if you've burnished it right. If it's too tight, you're not going to be able to burnish it, and it's not going to give you the look that you need. Okay?
I think Charles does it best here. Not too tight, but not too loose either. It's a very simplistic way to put that.
So that was why I tried to add in a little bit of a percentage in there, because it's hard to say not too tight, not too loose, but do not wrap it tighter than you would wrap a guide wrap. Definitely do not, and maybe a little looser than that. So I've got my thread runner here, 4-spool carriage on the back. What I like to do is I still use my fingers and I help guide this thread on. I have my hand underneath the thread, and what it allows me to do is to keep the 3 threads like this, okay? If they're not like this, as they come across my finger and lay on that blank, it's going to turn into this, and it's going to be a mess in a hurry, and it will mess up the look of your tiger wrap. So I'm just laying down these threads here. Now, real quick on starting this wrap. The base wrap, I will start by tucking it underneath like you would start a normal guide wrap or any other wrap, okay? When I end it out here, I don't put a loop under and pull it back through, because sometimes when you've got 3 threads down and you're wrapping all over that stuff, it makes it hard to pull it tight, and it would be just heartbreaking to wrap, you know, even if it's only a 2-inch wrap or 10 inches or whatever, and then you break it and then it all comes unwound. It's like, all right, so I actually just take it and I just tape it off, which I'll show you here in a second when I get to it. And then I will also tell you about the second layer as well. So let me get some of this down.
Yeah, so Bill, he's asking 2 metallic and 1 non, or is it 2 non-metallic? So Bill, he's using 2 ColorFast threads and 1 metallic.
Yeah. And again, it's not the law. It's just it's what I have found that gives me the best result. Okay. So you can see there, that gives you a very even pattern, okay? Let me show you what happens if you start getting gaps and them crossing over. The threads start jumping and twisting, and you can see the colors start to get out of whack here real quick, down here. Let me turn it. See that right there? That is where a color has jumped itself and a gap has been formed. So I actually just take and back that out. This would be an excellent time to have the tension rods. So that's why we developed this guy. And you can, as you lay it down, if you start to get a few gaps in there, it's not a big deal. You can push them around and burnish them over, because remember, there's just not that much tension on this thread. So we can kind of close that up pretty quickly. All right? So now what I would do to finish this, and this is probably going to be a question about, like, do you do it first or second? If it's in a split grip, do you mount your handles first or second, or whatever? But I like to do all this decorative stuff in a split grip before I mount the handles, so that I can hide the ends and I can use winding checks and stuff. So what I will do is I will just actually pull this a little tighter, and I'll just run it out and cross it over. Okay? I just snugged that up tension-wise and just ran it out. Okay? So all that's going to do is hold that. So then as we move forward, you're going to be applying finish to this after you burnish. Okay? So when you apply finish to it, I'll just come in and cut it right here. See that little, where it starts to, where I've created that run out? There'll be finish on it. So it'll be locked down. So I'll just take it and cut it and pull that off. The reason for that is so that I don't have to try to do the pull thread and tuck it under and, you know, break one of them or all three of them, or because that metallic will break before the other ones, and then you'll just be like, have a big unwound mess. All right, so we're going to go back to the burnishing. Step one, done. I actually like to use a metal pick because these have really, really smooth sections on them here. Obviously, this is a knurling section here that you can hold on to it, so don't use that. But these edges here are smooth and they kind of have a little contour. You can see this little contour right here. It burnishes nicely and it's smooth and there's no grime on it. You can wipe it off with alcohol and really make sure it's clean. And then I also have this in my hand if I reach down and notice, oh, there's a thread that's out of place, and I can use the pointy end and fix it, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take here, we're at 12 o'clock, remember the arrow I drew, but we also have 0 degrees over here on the index chuck face. All right, so we're just gonna burnish here. And really what you're doing is you're pushing those threads. And don't go like all He-Man with it, but you're just gonna kind of manipulate it. And you can start to see them slide, and they'll put a little arch in the thread. Okay, that's 12 o'clock. Now I'm going to come over here to 3, or 90 degrees off. We're going to do that. Okay, then we're going to come here to 180. We're going to go back the same direction we were going, and I get off the 180. I go like 10 degrees on either side, just to make sure I'm getting that thread, you know, moved. And you can kind of start to see there. See how it's got a little wave in it? That means you're doing it right. All right, and then I'm going to come over here to 270 for all you math fans out there. Which is also 9 o'clock, I think. Yep. See, that's what happens when it's live. You start to second guess yourself a little bit. And then I just come back here and make sure to kind of clean it up, make sure the ends are kind of squared. But you can see when I spin it, it's got a wave in it. Okay? So that right there is your first step and second step. Now we're going to put finish.
Cool.
So step 1, wrap. Step 2, burnish. Step 3, we're going to finish, and we're going to walk away from it for a while. Let it cure out. Trust me, let it cure out. Otherwise, you're going to be left with, come over here, cool man. You're going to be left with this kind of a mess here. See, and this is just, see all the finish that's like flaking off? That is because I put too much tension on the thread, and 2, I did it before it was cured out. So it just turned into a whole mess. So don't do that, because now it's cured, so now we got to cut it off. So that would be less than ideal. A lot of wasted time and effort there. So
Cool.
All right.
Lots of good questions. You want to hit some of these real quick?
Oh, yeah.
Dave, G2 Power Wrapper mid-March. We're expecting mid-March delivery for our next one there. Tom asks, how many coats of finish after that first step there? Just 1, right?
Well, so you can get creative there. I usually do 1 coat, but I use high build. So if you're somebody that either doesn't like high build, or you want a more, I'm trying to think, it gives a greater optical illusion, I guess, if that's the right term. The more finish that you apply in between the two thread layers, so you got thread layer 1 and you put finish. If you put high build and really build it up, or you put multiple layers of, light build or regular build, the farther you get the second layer of thread away from the first layer of thread, the more dimension that you're going to have in this tiger wrap. Now, granted, you don't want, a 9-layer finish thread tiger wrap, or 9 layers of finish over the top of your thread on like fly rod.
Right.
It's gonna be kind of weird looking, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of adding unnecessary weight. But this one down here, cool man. This one down here is thread. So this one down here is thread, 1 layer of high build, thread, and another layer of high build. And it's, you can see it stands up pretty decent, okay? So, yep.
Lots of questions on length of the tiger wrap. So one here, is it true that the longer the wrap, the more tiger appearance you get?
For sure.
Perfect, cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to catch your eye more the longer it is. You have more surface area to show the patterns. Yeah. If you do a really short one like I've got here, and I'm going to wrap over it, I'll show you, it's just kind of like, I mean, it's good, but man, if it was like a 10-inch long one, you'd be like, wow, that's pretty impressive.
Another one of the questions from Charlene, is there a minimum wrap length for the effect to be really noticeable? I would say yes. I don't know that exact length, but anything probably shorter than the wrap that you have here, and even in that length, which is about what, 1.5 to 2 inches, you're not really going to get that full effect of multiple like tiger eyes, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that would be probably like an under wrap on a size 12 guide, or maybe a 16, and you're going to be pushing it. You're going to be pushing it, because then you're only going to be showing that little bit, and it will, but it's not going to be much of a tiger. It's just going to be a little bit of there'll be just a couple crossovers that'll give just a little bit of a look, but no, it's not going to be like big tiger striping. So.
All right, we're going to do another giveaway. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know if that one's ready or not. We'll do this shorter one. That'll help answer some of the questions.
Well, in the meantime, all right, so let's do giveaway number 2 of the night. This is going to be our 4-spool rolling carriage, and we're also going to throw in the 18-spool thread pack of ColorFast and metallic. So let's get a winner for giveaway number 2. Who's that going to be tonight? Dan Rivera out of YouTube.
Sweet.
Cool. Congrats, Dan. Make sure, Dan and also Bob, make sure you email live@mudhole.com.
Live@mudhole.com. Yep.
Live@mudhole.com. Make sure you send an email to that email address, and we'll get you squared away.
All right. We'll go also and talk a little bit about do and do not, because we'd like to try to cover those. So I've got 2 identical base wraps here. Okay, this is the first layer of thread, 3 threads, same color, same everything, about the same length. There's finish on them. This one is awfully sloppy. Let me pull this out. Cool, man, I'll turn it towards you. Hang on. Try not to poke you there. There you go. All right. So this one here is awfully sloppy. And you can see there's gaps in it. There's actually thread crossovers in it. And it really it looks terrible. right? That's what happens when you don't like pay some decent attention to what you're doing laying down the base, okay? Because it's important. All right, and then slide over there to the other side. Again, same colors, same everything. That's burnished tightly. You can see there's kind of some waves in it, you know, because the thread's been burnished. So that's the difference. So both of them are identical. One looks like hell and one looks pretty darn good. And all that really is the difference in making sure your 3 threads lay together tightly. It's packed and then burnished properly. You don't have a crossover. Like right there, that's a crossover. It just looks terrible. And this is not even like, you know, really definitive colors. These are just colors that I know will show up. If you were to do that with the purple and green and such, it really looks bad really quickly when you start crossing over. And then I will show you the finished version of how bad it can look. Hand me that belt rod down there, Hunter Man, to your right. All right, this is a what not to do, okay? There's a little bit of tiger striping in the middle here, okay? There's a little bit in here. You can kind of just see it wanting to stripe there. But if you look down here, look how bad this looks. These are crossed over threads. These are a mess, okay? And you can see, oh, this is okay here, but this is not. There's more crossovers here. It just looks bad. So this is what, when we have to go through all of the steps on a nice rod build to mess it up for you guys. And of course, we also did a bad job on the finish. So we just want to let you know, like, take your time on the tiger wrap. It's not hard, but you can make it look ugly if you just don't follow the steps. So, and really all that is just from not packing the threads properly and just sloppy wrapping. All right, now this is going to answer a question that so many have about the second layer of thread. I told you guys earlier, I don't use the metallic that I used on the bottom to wrap on the top. If I'm not leaving that metallic, which I never do, you can if you want to. I never leave a metallic on the top, personally, so I don't use it. I'm not putting it in the 3 threads that I'm wrapping on the top of this because it's just not as easy to wrap with. So I'm actually going to use another ColorFast size D, and I'm going to use it in black because in this bottom set of threads there was black and silver and gray. So what you can also do though is use these 2 purple and green colors as your sacrificial threads. So you don't have to reload your thread carriage if you've already got other colors in it from earlier. But, you know, I mean, I've got a spool of black in every thread carriage that I own because I use it so much. So if I'm using it, I don't need to swap everything out if I'm going to leave the black thread on top of this tiger wrap. So just keep that in mind because that comes up a lot. No, you don't have to use the same 3 colors. I just would choose the single color that was the darkest, non-metallic, in the 3 that went down. Now, I've got it lined up. I was using the index chuck, so I don't have a piece of tape on here, okay? But when I start, now there is 1 layer burnished and finished, okay? When I start this second layer of thread, I'm going to start on the other side. So I went from this side to this side. I'm going to start on this side and go back this way. Now remember, we're going to be pulling threads. And I know somebody in the comments said you don't pull them, you unwind them. Okay. So yes, you don't pull on them like you're, pull starting a mower, because you can move the thread around when you don't want to move it around. Once you burnish it and set it, unwind it gently so that it leaves the pattern in it. Okay, we're not pull starting a mower here. Okay, so what we've got is 3 threads. I'm leaving the black thread, and the other Mardi Gras threads are just here because they're still in the wrapper. All right. Get these manipulated here.
Mike's got a good tip here. I found that contrasting colors of sacrificial threads make it easier on the eyes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep, for sure. So when I start this thread out here, I'm actually just going to tape it. The reason for that is you're going to be pulling 2 of the threads out of here, so I don't want to lock them down like you normally lock them for a thread wrap. Okay? It just helps pulling everything out, and then of course you're going to put finish back over it, so that's going to lock it. All right? And also, you're going to be, more than likely, you're going to be adding, a trim piece here to cover your ends up on both sides. So as you wrap up on this, if it's not great and it wants to kind of catch funny, don't worry about the first little bit of this, okay? If you had a tag in, or you had a bubble or something like that you had to cut out, it's okay, because this tiger wrap is going to pinch in a little bit because you will have trim bands on the outside of it, more than likely. And I'm just wrapping them side by side by side. Whoop. That's the official that jumps. Now, as I'm spinning this, y'all switch cameras real quick. As I'm spinning this, I have the band off of my power wrapper. No band at all, right? I'm actually using my left hand and just spinning that wheel. Those bearings inside of that power wrapper, I can spin it really almost effortlessly. So remember, there's not a ton of tension on this either, okay? I don't have it crazy locked, so it doesn't take a lot of effort to spin this rod. And that's why I'm just using the outside of this wheel on this power wrapper with no band. I can kind of move everything down. And I'm also, when we're talking about thread angles here, I have my rolling thread runner to the left a little bit. So the angle of the thread is like this, which is, you would think, is a little counterintuitive, okay? Because most of the time you want it back a little bit so it stacks them straight. I actually have it either dead in front of it or a little to the left, and then I'm actually using my finger to bring it back to the thread just so that there's constant tension on it, okay? So it's going away and then I'm bringing it back, and that just allows me, I just use my middle finger as a guide, and that just helps me to keep it tight to one another. Because again, trying to keep these 3 threads in order so they don't jump and overlap and all that is a very important part of this. Now, I will say it's not as important on this second layer because you're going to be pulling the threads, but if you get big gaps or you get jumps on this one, it's going to make the threads that are jumped get weird. It'll make it run out, and there'll be a boo-boo in your, like, if there's a really nice pattern forming and there's a couple threads that are like all wonky, it'll make it not as attractive. All right, so now we're finished here. We're just going to run this off. And again, I'm just going to pull this a little tighter. And I'm going to run it out here. Tape it down. I run this side out a little bit longer because what I'm going to do is I'm going to need to cut the 2 threads to get them out. And everybody does this a different way. I will take a thread pick and pull those 2 and cut them and then unwind it, okay? So I run it out a little bit more so I've got some room to work with. Everybody okay so far?
Yeah, getting some compliments on how fast you're wrapping that by hand.
It seems like an eternity here
I'm
on
sure
camera.
it does.
It really does. All right, so this happens to me a lot. And by a lot, I mean like 3 times a year when I do a tiger wrap. But it's really, really exciting when you get that thread down and you're like ready to start moving. Don't forget to burnish it, okay? I have caught myself about a half dozen times here over the last 2 days, just ready to start burnishing, or ready to start pulling threads, and I haven't burnished yet. So remember, first layer went from my left out to my right. I also have worked myself into a habit of, if this side's the butt of the rod, I'm always going to wrap from butt to tip on the first layer. Second layer is always from tip to butt. It just helps me get in the groove of knowing like, well, I know my first layer is going to go from left to right, and I burnish starting left to right, and vice versa. If you want to do it a different way, if you want to constantly try to trick yourself and manipulate it and do all the different things, I'm just letting you know how I do it. I start butt to tip, second layer, tip to butt.
Got it.
So I'm going to turn my little dial here. I'm going to go back to 0 or 12 o'clock. I'm going to take my thread pick here. I'm going to push my threads.
You always burnish the same way that you wrap, correct?
Yep, absolutely. And like I said, you might, I say 12 o'clock, but you know, you're probably moving it like from 1 o'clock to 11 o'clock to try to move those threads a little bit more. Because you can always come back and burnish the other way if you feel like you've gone a little too far at one thing. So run it over here to 90 or 3 o'clock.
Tom's got a question. Do you apply heat after burnishing? No, not until you get to the finishing stage. Do you want to apply some heat during finishing?
Some people do though.
Oh, do they?
Some people do. And the reason they do that is they will heat it up a little bit and then like do one last burnish, and it kind of like helps lock it in a little bit. I haven't found that it gives me any better or worse of a tiger wrap. But I think, you remember Kyle that used to work here?
Yeah.
I think Kyle used some heat.
And that would make sense.
And use a, yeah, right? And use a heat gun. Don't use a torch or anything like that, because you're putting heat on bare threads. So just use a heat gun or a hair dryer. It'll soften the finish up a little bit. Again, I've never noticed that, you know, wow, that really came out a heck of a lot better that I did that. So I don't do that. But yes, some people do. I'm not going to say no, don't do it, or you can't. All right, now we're at 6 o'clock or 180. $270. I'm going to check it again here at 12. I had to do one last little deal. Now, what can happen as well, that you got to be careful of, is if you get a thread that rolls over another thread during burnishing. That's why I use this tool when I'm using tiger wraps, because I can actually take it and like slide it back over and then use the point to like pick it and move it back, and then I turn it around and use the back of the little elbow there to kind of like get back in there, right? So, yeah, that's
Cool.
me during the Tiger Wrap Fest.
Matt just asked, do you always burnish with a pick? I think you kind of explained why you would opt for a pick over maybe a burnishing tool. because it will allow you to get in there and be a little more intricate with your threads.
Yeah, I've found that it's like 7 tools in one. Like I can burnish, and then I can pick it, and then I can press it, and it's really easy to keep clean because it's not plastic, and so it makes me feel good that I'm not doing anything bad to the threads. All right, so now a little bit of a moment of truth here, but we're going to make sure that we separate out the purple and the green. Okay, those are the ones that we're going to sacrifice. All right, so I'm just going to move them away from our black thread. Now, another quick thing. If you're using black in your tiger wrap, and you're also using black on your top thread that you're going to leave, for those that use black thread a lot, you will notice that regular nylon black turns a darker black than a ColorFast black. The ColorFast black, because it's a treated, it is black, but it's not as dark as, let's say, the nylon black. And if you want to use a metallic that is black and leave it, the black metallic is even like darker than that. So just some things to think about there when you kind of are picking and choosing threads, because you also have to be careful that if you use nylon, it might change, but I typically only use black nylon because it's just going to get darker than it is on the spool. Whereas if you use some of these other greens or some of these other blues, they might disappear on you or be too translucent to see, or if there's not enough color there against a certain color blank, it might just be like, oh, well, you look like you just left a gap in your thread, and it's like, no, I swear it was blue when I put it on there. So, all right, let's get these going here. Again, we're not like snatching these off. We're kind of, let me get this out of here.
Yes, Ron, you can achieve the same effect with the yellow burnishing tool. Like Chris mentioned, he likes using the pick because if you need to actually, manipulate or move around some threads, you can do that with the pick, whereas the yellow burnishing tool really doesn't allow you to do that. However, you can still achieve the same effect and burnish with the yellow burnishing tool.
For sure. Now, if you notice, I'm letting the thread kind of like fall out of the wrap. See, I'm not pulling it. The weight of the thread is kind of just like falling out. All right, and you guys can see there, that pattern is pretty cool. And at some point, you got to do a little bit of, got to give her a little bit of help there, right? It'll end up in the vacuum later. So again, we're not pulling them. Again, I got no band over here on the power wrapper. I'm just single hand spinning this thing. Whoop. I probably pushed down a little hard there and pushed it into the finish, which is okay.
Get some nice compliments there.
There
And
you
I
are.
promise you guys, I know the zoom and the camera and all that looks great, but in person, this wrap looks even better in person than it does in
It's
the camera.
actually kind of like Hunter and I. We're pretty ugly on camera.
True.
We're not much better in person, but we try. We try. All right. So now, remember, I've taped these down, and I'm just going to trim all this out. And that's kind of that's a pretty decent look. Let me pull it out. Let's see if we can.
Yeah, maybe a little different angle.
Yeah. Sometimes a little different angle is all that it needs.
To get that right angle.
Yeah. Sorry, Matt. I know you had to go hunt for that one again. That's not too bad.
Yeah. Excellent.
Cool. All right. A couple things real quick. I'm gonna mix up a little finish and then put it on there because it does, the finish actually makes a difference. Once you put it on there, it actually kind of makes it pop even more. And I wanted to touch on a couple things. I don't know if the question has been asked. Now, I have played with the Tiger wrap in terms of when you wrap the bottom layer, you go from my left to right, and you burnish at 12 and then back at 3 and over at 6 and back at 9. Okay. I have then tried like offsetting, like taking the rod blank and taking it and creating a new 12 o'clock to go back the other direction. And I didn't get as good of a pattern. You could discuss amongst yourselves if that is a math thing or if it's whatever. But I've actually tried to, maybe turn it 180 degrees and wrap back this way and then create a new 12 o'clock and 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock. I feel like I get a better result if I maintain the same 12 o'clock but change directions. So I'm wrapping from right to left instead of left to right, and then burnishing from right to left, rather than also changing the axis. So instead of like the top being 12 and then I turn it to 9 or 3 or whatever and then go the other way and create a new 12 o'clock to burnish this way. Hopefully you guys are able to kind of follow me what I'm saying there, but I've tried it. I didn't feel like I got the best pattern that this one came out. So I would stick with the 12 o'clock that you start with, just change directions and burnish the other direction. Now, in terms of getting an eye, I get eyes in some of them and I don't get eyes in other ones. I personally feel like I get more of an eye that shows up in a larger diameter blank. And I don't know if that has to do with the fact that I'm able to maybe manipulate the thread more. And, if the bottom layer of thread is curved this way and the other layer of thread on top is curved this way, and I'm able to spread that across it more.
Makes sense.
I don't know, right? So, like, I have really short bars here. Like down on this end, these tiger stripes are much closer together than this one is here. Like that one right there is very close to forming an eye, okay? I wish I could answer that question because I personally like it when it gets an eye in it. And this one I think did. Yeah, so there's an eye here, there's an eye here, there's an eye here. That's almost an eye, but then there's also some striping in it. Again, if somebody out there is better at this than I am, which there's plenty of y'all, I promise you, and you've got a better explanation and you can tell me how to get more eyes in it, I would love to know, because I've done it before, but it's so hard to like replicate, even though I feel like I'm doing the same thing. But that's the idea of it. So anyway, let's do some questions. Let me mix this up.
Sure. See what we got here.
But I will say the good part about trying different top thread layers and what color that you leave and stuff, right now, there is no reason that I couldn't just take this black top thread, pull it off, and just do another 3 threads on top and maybe leave another color. Maybe leave a metallic, maybe leave, I don't do much with introducing a 4th color into this whole deal other than black. So like if I would have left this neon Mardi Gras green on top of that black, silver, and whatever that was on the bottom and gray, I've never done that. I can't say it's going to be bad or it's going to be good, but I don't like that look. And in terms of, like, I've just never gone down that road.
Yeah.
I just try to keep it.
I got one here for you from Eric. Do you think a tiger wrap would work between split grips on a 4-piece ultralight travel rod? So I think that kind of goes back to what you just mentioned about the blank diameter.
Yeah.
You know, on a very small, the smaller diameter blank you go, possibly you're going to lose not necessarily some of the bars, but more of the eye shapes.
Yeah.
Right. So not that you can't do it, but
You're going to get the effect.
you're definitely still going to get the effect.
You're going to get you'll definitely get striping, and you will absolutely get the tiger striping effect. It really, I mean, in tiny, tiny diameter blank. That's because you're going to be able to manipulate the threads, you know, so you will be okay there. And it could be, you know, that maybe you need to like ease up on the tension. Maybe I need to ease up on the tension even more and make a bigger like wave in the thread when I'm burnishing it.
Yeah.
And that will create, you know, more of a crossover that might give me the eye. So I don't know.
Let's see here. Tim, what about wrapping 4, then wrap again with 4 and pull 2? So 4 on the bottom, 4 on top, pull 2 on top. I think that's what he's getting out there.
Yeah, I have left, I've done 4 and left 2, but I left 2 like of the same color side by side. I didn't leave like one, a gap and another one. And the reason I did that is to just have a wider stripe. But again, there is no reason why you can't give that a go. And you know, like it's a little bit time consuming, but it's not like some of the decorative thread work that
Right.
you know you see like you know Lori doing or
Right.
You know some of these incredible thread artists. It's not like one of those 12-hour deals.
Right.
You know, so you could throw some thread down, 6 threads on the bottom and 4 on top and put, you know, whatever, and you're not really out that much time.
Yeah.
You know, a little bit of thread and some finish, it's not the end of the world.
How about blank color? Is that going to affect your tiger effect? I'm assuming that's going to depend on what color threads you use, right?
Yeah, you know, the good thing is as long as you stay in the ColorFast family, it's not going to matter. You know, if you start playing around with some nylons, which I've done, this purple down here has a nylon gray in it, and I did purple, metallic purple, and a nylon gray. It looks pretty good, but I don't know. It's on a black blank, so it just turned into like dark gray. You know, it's not like it got too creative. I just wanted to see how much like purple tones maybe the gray picked up, or I don't know. Not all that great. Now the good thing is you can always like do some of these tests on the blank that you're going to build on.
Mm-hmm.
If it's like going to be under the grip.
Yeah.
If you lay out your grip layout and then go, okay, well this is going to be under my rear grip or this is going to be under my reel seat, have at it, and then just cut it off and then glue your rear grip down.
Good
and
idea.
you'll be over the exact same color that you're doing, but just hide it so when you cut it off, you're not left with a bunch of marring, you know. What else?
Question on the bottom layer. Do all 3 colors stay and only pull 2 from the top? Yes, that is correct, Ron. Your first base layer of thread, you're going to keep all 3 there, or even 4 if you use 4. Epoxy on top, and then when you go to do your second layer of thread, that's where you're going to pull 2 sacrificial threads from that. Ready for some finish?
Yeah, we'll put a little finish on here, why not?
So when it comes to so your epoxy layer in between your 2 thread layers, We talked about doing 1 coat of high build or maybe even 2 thin coats of a light build or a medium build. When it comes to finish on your second coat of thread, that's obviously really gonna kick in and give you that really cool visual, and you want to make sure you do the same thing, 1 coat of high build and a couple thin coats of a low build, or do you do even a little bit more than your other coat?
I think that just from what I've seen, I think that if you want more of a depth effect and you're gonna use multiple coats anywhere, I use it in between the first and the second layer to get those layers farther apart.
Okay.
And that'll give you more of that's going to give you a little more depth and kind of show. The only other time that I added additional coats that I think made a difference was I added another coat of high build and then I put a decal on it, and then put another coat on top of that, because I did it in a split grip and I had plenty of room to work with. But then it made the decal looked floating and it was pretty cool. So I am also being very careful with the finish here, because I have one single thread that is like turned into a ribbing on the top of this. What I don't want to do is like brush violently across the top of it like this, because if I do that, I'm going to go very gently and just kind of manipulate the finish across the top. What you can do is, if you go a little too aggressive with it, you can introduce air bubbles into every one of those little, think of it as like threads on a screw. And if you brush across the top of them, you can now hide bubbles in every one of those little kind of grooves in the threading. So I try not to do that, because then that just means it's more work for me at the end. So
Daniel, this is we're using the rod dryer that's with the G2 unit. So this one's probably turning at about
it's
9 to 10 RPM, pretty slow.
And I add more finish on here than maybe I would on like a guide, but also because I'm just going to come back in with heat.
Bob wants to know, could you use CP on top, then tie the ends, and then epoxy?
Yeah, I just don't like color preserver.
An honest answer.
But yeah, you can. You totally can. You could technically just, no. If he was going to do it like that, I would do the color preserver, for sure. All right. That's like, just doesn't do it justice. It's like, I want to get my phone and like shoot it from back here. Let me see, I need to put something down so I can. That one paper towel's got so much lint in it. Hang on. Use a sheet with guide spacing on it. Uncle Phil, hopefully you were done shooting that. Alright, I'm going to pull this. Actually, I'm going to put a little heat on it, and then I'll pull it out and then let you guys see it. And I do add a little more finish because I always come in with heat, especially on this, because I want to make sure that I don't have any bubbles trapped in my threads. So again, you don't have to use the alcohol burner. You can use a hair dryer, a heat gun, a torch. Pick your poison, whatever you want. I know I hear about that alcohol burner all the time.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Each their own.
That's it. All right. We'll do this quickly, see if we can not mess this up completely.
Travis, we're looking at mid-March for the G2s. A couple more weeks. We'll get them pretty soon, though.
You all right over there, Zoom man? So that's pretty good. It does stand out a little bit more when you get finished on it. Cool. All right. Go back in this thing here. Why it's rolling.
You know, obviously if you're using like a light build, a medium build, wouldn't put quite as much finish on, but since you're using high build, more than likely going to get away with one coat. Pour it on there.
Yep.
Hit it with some heat, let it drip off, and you're good to go.
Did Uncle Phil, did you take a picture of that one that we did all black? Can you put that up and see? So I got this question years ago when we did it, and like I said, I was in here purposely screwing stuff up, purposely trying different colors and options and things, and somebody said last time about like all the same color, or can you do a really stealth, or can you whatever, and then one of the guys, Birdman, that works in the Thunderdome here in the marketing department, he's in the war room tonight helping answer questions. He wanted to see a black on black on black. So I did ColorFast black, nylon black, and black metallic. And I know you've already heard it 20 times tonight, like it doesn't look as good on camera or whatever, but we took it out to the pond in the sunlight tonight. It looks pretty good. You can see it. It's tough, but Uncle Phil, I think what you said something like it looks like there's a pattern on the blank maybe, and not like it really pops. I almost went with like the next shade up of metallic from I think the black metallic's like 9600. Is that right?
9800.
9800. You are right. I got it back here. All right. So whatever the next one up from 9800 is, I almost went with that one, or I went with like a gunmetal type. I think I might do that next time.
Yeah.
But the black actually really does look pretty cool because it's like you don't know it that it's there until you see it, and then if you hand it to somebody in the sunlight, and they would be like,
oh
yeah. Or I would do something like a really dark purple metallic or a really dark red metallic with then ColorFast and nylon black, because when those two get side by side, you can just tell just a little bit of difference, and it's pretty sharp. It's pretty sharp. So, you think we got enough questions to do
yeah, I think we got plenty of questions.
To do a rapid fire.
To do some rapid fire.
Is there anything? I'm trying to think if I left out anything in terms of little tips and tricks, but maybe it'll come up in the questions. Uncle Phil, we're going to fire up this rapid fire Q&A.
Rapid fire Q&A.
There it is. It gets all the air bubbles out. The flames like that. All right, cool. I think you put 7 minutes on that bad boy. Honey, are you going to partake in this?
Yeah.
Or just going to be?
We'll bounce back and forth.
You're going to be the firing squad.
Yeah.
Where's the clock? Uncle Phil.
Working on it.
He's working on it.
Bam.
That must have been.
Oh, it's rolling.
It was there
Okay.
with the mics. That's why we left it with the mics.
On your first layer, how
Okay.
many coats?
Uh,
First layer of epoxy, that is.
right. One, and I do kind of like two.
Okay. Okay.
Makes it stand up a little bit more. It's like looking at something through a glass of water. It gives that.
Yeah. When you add a decal over the thread,
Mhm.
would you apply a high build or thickish layer of finish, then the decal followed by multiple thin coats?
Yes, to all those. I would do a high build on the thread, or two lights, decal, and then probably two lights again.
Cool. I'll hit this one to
Okay.
join in. How much does this strengthen the rod, or is it just for looks? Definitely just for looks. This is not going to strengthen your rod in any way. And it necessarily, you won't lose any performance as long as you keep this towards the butt section of your rod,
Yeah.
you know, and you're obviously adding some thread, adding some finish, but in the long run, or you know, the grand scheme of things, you're not taking too much away. Now, if you did 5, you know, tiger wraps on here,
Or on every
or
ferrule.
on every ferrule,
Of
or
a fly
on,
rod?
or under, you know, every guide wrap,
Yeah.
then yeah, you might be sacrificing a little bit of performance there.
For sure.
What else we got here? Do you epoxy before you close the ends?
So earlier, it was mentioned that if you want to use color preserver to like lock it down and then lock the ends and then put finish, you absolutely can do that. I don't do that. I do finish because I tend to add a little bit more finish on top. I will add finish, lock the ends, and add finish again.
Cool. What speed does the rod need to turn when putting high build on threads? Joe, that's really going to vary. I mean, you know, we're using the G2 here with the built-in dryer. It's
Yep.
turning at about 9 to 10, maybe 12.
Yep.
You can, you know, you can always high speed finish as well.
Oh, for sure.
You know, the speed is not necessarily, it has to be a certain speed. You know, you can, we have a ton of people finish at high speeds, you know, to get very clean lines, clean edges. Some people starting out prefer to do it like a 9 or an 18 speed. So, you know, personal preference there. Does that make the rod weaker with a bad wrap? I think we were referencing the rod that you showed earlier. No,
No, it's
definitely
just
doesn't.
ugly.
Yeah, just aesthetics.
Just poor tiger wrapness.
What else we got here? We talked about minimum wrap lengths. What gives more of a pattern, 2, 3, or 4 threads? You happen to know that one?
No. 2, definitely no. Hey, I'm honest, guys, right? Use 3. I don't. 2 doesn't really. I don't think there's enough of like movement and variation in the thread, and I don't even remember the last time I did 4. If I've even done it. I've tried to get better at just doing 3 and then leaving 1 and going from there. But 3 seems to be kind of a magic number, I think.
Larry, can you do a tiger wrap with a 2-spool carriage?
Yeah, that was, we talked about it earlier. I would take the 2-spool carriage and then a bobbin. You can put the bobbin in like between 2 nails on your workbench if you've got it. You can take and put a bobbin like behind a book, or not even use a bobbin and put like your dad used to do back in the day and take a spool of thread and put it in a coffee cup and run the thread through the book. You can do that because remember, you're not worried so much about all this tension that like just a book would have enough tension to do it. So, yeah.
A couple more good ones here at the end.
If you were doing a short enough one, I actually was messing around with like the different lengths. If you did a short enough one, you could just take 3 colors of thread and just pull like an arm length and cut it.
Yeah.
And pull an arm length and cut it, kind of like you're doing a cross wrap.
Right.
Yep.
Can you use 2 metallic on the first layer if you are going with 4 threads?
Yeah, there's no reason. Again, I have yet to like have any hard and fast rules on how many metallics or how many colors or how many. You could do all 3 metallics on the bottom if they're contrasting enough. It just depends on what you want it to look like. You know, that's the only reason why I don't do a metallic on the top. I just prefer the look of the metallic underneath because I think the light catches it differently when you have a non-metallic that is covering up parts of the metallic thread on the bottom.
Yep. Off topic, but tips on silk to go translucent. White silk.
Yeah. There's like white and then there's also like natural or something, I think. It's like, or get it as close to the color of the blank that you're using.
Yeah,
so that's also kind of like a fun way to do it too, is if either you don't have white or you've got, you know, a really cool green blank, just pick the color silk that's the closest to that and it will have like a little hint, it'll almost have like a little bit of glow of color, but it'll go translucent.
Do brighter colors show up as good as dark?
Yeah, but you are going to want something that contrasts. So this one here is a, let's see if I can pull them out. I don't think I can't really see it. But it's weird. You wouldn't almost expect the color. So the green in this is this green here, which it doesn't look like it is, but it's the green that's on the spool carriage is the green that's in this. And then there's a light blue, like a teal, kind of like a Jaguar blue, Jacksonville Jaguars football team, Jaguar teal, and then a blue metallic. And then you get this. So it's kind of weird sometimes when you mix colors, you don't get, and Phil, I think you even said, you looked over there and you're like, if you look really close, the green almost looks yellow. But it's not. But when you look real close, it kind of does. So. All right, one more. Give me one more.
Last one, all right. Little long one here. With your demos, there is no handles, cork/EVA or butt cork/EVA. So if you wrap first, then add the handle/Real C, do you do the trim band in epoxy or slide the rest on, then epoxy?
So, and that's why I usually do it without handles.
Yep.
So if this piece here or any of those were in the split grip, I would do everything except close the ends with trim and add the last coat of epoxy. I would do all of that, what you see here, finish the tiger wrap. Then I would come in with, more than likely, I'm going to come in with winding checks and glue everything up. Or I'm going to purposely, which I do this on some of mine, I purposely make the tiger wrap long enough that it disappears under the cork or the EVA, like up to 1/4 of an inch, okay? Then from there, I glue everything up, and then I put my trim bands and put one last coat of finish.
Cool.
I still do use winding checks a lot though with tiger wraps, just because there's a lot of finish going on and there's a lot of other stuff, and if it makes for a cleaner look, in my opinion, especially like on cork and some things like that, when you're trying to slide cork up over the ends of the tiger wrap.
Yeah.
So,
Makes sense.
if it's cheating, it's cheating, but I think it looks pretty cool.
All right, let's do the last giveaway of
That's
the night.
it. We'll get people out of here.
Yeah,
Not too bad though.
Not too bad,
8
not
o'clock.
too bad.
So, grand prize for tonight, we're going to be doing MHX spinning or casting, so your choice of a
Yep.
rod kit, along with, what do we got there? The 18 spool ColorFast and metallic thread pack, which we've given out with the other giveaways as well.
Yep.
All right, so let's queue up a winner for tonight. Your choice of an MHX spinning or casting rod plus the 18 spool thread pack. What do we got? Elizabeth McCoy? McCohen? It's a tough one.
I don't know. It sounded like the voice inflection really got it there though.
Not really sure. Sorry, Elizabeth. I probably got your last name wrong. But congratulations, you got a great prize.
Yeah, that is awesome. Again, live at mudhole.com. And of course, you guys are welcome to, email that if you want to tell us how good or how bad we're doing as well. We got thick skin, we can take it. And
Yep.
we always, though, all jokes aside, we do appreciate hearing from you guys. And it is nice when somebody writes in and says, hey, I got another question, or can you do this on the next show or another show from now or whatever. Anytime you got it, throw it our way. We've
Yep.
done 95 episodes of these. So, we can keep going. And all right. Not too bad, huh?
Yeah, good.
Cool. Giveaway winners, congratulations for that. Everybody, thank you very much. We were in the over 300 tonight. We kept you all around for an hour and 30 minutes. We've got, what do we have tonight? We have pizza? We got pizza?
Yeah, pizza.
So we got pizza to get out of here and go eat. The next show topic, that is going to be in March, the 20th? 21st. So March 21st. Oh, and speaking of that, hang on.
Uh-oh.
Didn't we say, what was it? we did Tiger Wrap February 2 years ago, and we did it on 2/23/21, and now we're doing it on 2/21/23.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a little plan
Fun
in there.
fact.
That's it. So don't worry, we haven't planned out till 2030. So don't worry. Hunter and I are going to be in here on Social Security in the penthouse eating applesauce for dinner. Anyway, so the next show is grip repair. That's going to be March, and I think you said that's 21st. Episode 96. We're going to show you whether or not, Fluffy got a hold of your grip, or maybe you got a rat problem, or it's just an old fishing rod and you just flat wore the grips out. We're going to help you do a number of different grip repairs. So yeah, join us March 21st, 6:30 here at the penthouse. You're going to be here. He's going to be here. Maybe the mics will be here. Anyway, so don't worry, we got a Mullet Minute tonight. Want to thank everybody. Steve was here. We had the Birdman in the building. He was in the war room. I think Sean was in there tonight. Sean was in there tonight.
I think so.
Sean was in there tonight. I know Hoffman was in there. Of course, we had Cool Man on the Zoom. We had Uncle Phil on the ones and twos. For this moment, Hunter is my right hand man.
Yeah.
I'm Chris Adams. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 95. Tonight was 95.
Oh, no, okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Sorry.
thank you for joining us for
Little ahead
episode
of myself.
95. Tamin Tiger Wraps. The next time we see you, it's going to be daylight savings time. Thank goodness. I can't wait. And since we've all been waiting for it, Jake's been on like a 6-month vacation or something. So he's got the Mullet Minute coming back, and we're going to leave you guys with the Mullet Minute. So Jake, down in the basement, take it away with that gorgeous set of locks you got. Good night, everybody.
See you next time.
Sorry I had to see that. A little bit embarrassing. Welcome to the Mullet Minute with Jake Hutchison. I am Jake Hutchison. Unfortunately, we're starting the show off today on a rather sad note. A heartbreak, more specifically. Phil, roll the clip, please.
Oh, that's a bigger one. Oh!
Oh, my hug and my fishy.
Oh, so.
No little girl, or anyone for that matter, should have to go through that kind of heartbreak. So to ease the pain some, we've been building her the sickest, one-of-one kids custom fishing rod on earth. Here's a little preview of it. On a lighter note, there's another youngin' out here on TikTok who has been straight up destroying bass on beds. Check this out.
I fish often. Brand new pole, just copped it. Got options. Could catch that worm like Robin. I'm watching. It hitting on top, I'm popping. It pads around.
This kid straight up gets bit. It's exciting to see parents sharing the love of the outdoors and instilling that passion for fishing into their kids. More tackle boxes, less Xboxes, as Alex Terashenko would say. In other news, Cobby Lame, who was once the #1 most followed TikToker in the world, drops 6.6 million followers overnight to spot number 3 after he released a viral video of him using a spinning reel on a casting rod. Phil, I can't even watch this. Roll the clip.
No, 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 no.
Now let's talk upcoming events. The Mudhole Wholesale Team and Education Team will be in Houston at the Houston Fishing Show, March 1st through 5th, with a booth double the size as last year. We'll be talking new products, custom rod building, and how you can get fishing rod building into your classroom and part of the curriculum. The Advanced Rod Building Techniques Seminar, put on by Mudhole and Bob McCamey, has officially reached capacity. We're sold out. With 16 of the most high-level rod builders being in the building, teaching different topics that weekend, you will leave with more rod building knowledge than you know what to do with. And now, what you've all been waiting for, because you haven't seen a Mullet Minute in a long time, because we've been busy making TikToks, and Phil and I have been on the road. The Mullet Minute TikTok of the month. Drum roll, please. Oh, Mr. Windsor's class in Michigan, building custom fishing rods in the classroom. This is Mr. Windsor's class in Michigan, where high school students build fishing rods during class. Mr. Windsor's class is one of over 700 schools around the world that builds rods through the Mud Hole Education Program. We simplify the rod building process and offer very detailed lesson plans, both in video and PDF formats, as well as affordable pricing, so any teacher, scout leader, or youth group leader can teach their students a craft that will last them a lifetime and get them outdoors and off of technology. Email Anthony at mudhole.com for more information and get fishing rod building into your classroom for a class your students will never forget. Now, this video turned out to be quite controversial, and at first glance, you might not know why, but a lot of people were mad that they didn't have this when they were growing up, and that's why Mud Hole started the Mud Hole Education Program, because we want to see kids learn a valuable skill in the classroom and walk away with something that'll last them a lifetime. And now, what you've all been waiting for, because you know you should be waiting for it, because we told you before, and we've done it before, the Mud Hole Mullet Minute Rod Builder of the Month.
Rod Builder of the Month. You know what time it is.
Drum roll, please. Hunter Node, aka the Hunter Fisher. Hunter's fairly new to rod building, but you would have no idea if you saw one of his builds. He's been crushing it lately and building some incredible BFS rods. Hunter, congratulations and nice hair. Well, folks, that brings us to the end of the show. This has been the Mullet Minute with Jay Cutchison. And as always, I am Jay Cutchison.